G'day there folks, it's Connie here once again from Marquee Industries, and we are back with some more stories from Reddit. I hope you're all having a fantastic day so far, and let's get straight into the stories. Alrighty folks, starting off on Am I the A-hole? This one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for not kicking out my roommate just because my girlfriend thinks he might be trans? I, 22 male, have a roommate, let's call him Alex, male 23, who moved in about 6 months ago. I honestly never considered Alex may be trans, not that I would care if he was, but that's not the issue. He's a short guy and probably under 165 centimeters, or 5'5", has a lot of facial hair, muscles, and looks a lot like a short Henry Cavill in my opinion. No one I know has ever brought up this idea before. I've had my friends and family at our apartment before. This is really the part that gets to me because my mum is extremely against any gay people, and if she sensed anything was up, she would have caused problems right away. Alex and I get along. We're polite but not really friends. He's quiet but super polite, always pays rent on time, helps with chores, and even shares his cooking with me. I appreciate having him around, especially because my last 3 roommates were each their own horror story. The issue came up when my girlfriend, let's call her Sarah, 28, came over one day. Alex was shirtless. To clarify, I forgot to tell Alex that she was coming over, and she noticed the scars on his chest. After that, she was quiet and short with me her entire stay there. When she got home, she blew up my phone, asking why I had a female living with me. I was confused and asked what she was on about. She says that she knows that his scars are from top surgery and that he is short, so he has to be trans and a born female. I try to explain that even if Alex is trans or a born female, that there is no way I'd be attracted to him, because to any person who looked at him, you would see a frickin' guy. Plus, he's respectful and doesn't cause drama like my last roommates, which she knows about. Just to be clear, I honestly still have no idea if Alex is even trans. I googled it and those scars could be from some other surgery, like heart surgery or gynecomastia, and I really don't have an argument for him being short, but there is a lot of short men. At first, Sarah wanted me to just ask Alex if he was trans, which why the F would I do that? Or give her his last name so she can run a background check. I said no to both. Then she said this was a violation of trust, and that if I didn't either find out if Alex is trans and kick him out, or just kick him out, that she would have to reevaluate things, basically threatening to break up. I said I don't do ultimatums, and that we're done. Since then, she's been messaging me every single day for over 2 weeks, even after I blocked her on everything because she wouldn't leave me alone, ticked that I wouldn't do this small thing for her. She ranges from, "Are you banging him? Let's just talk. Why can't you at least give me closure and ask him?" to the most recent, her telling our mutual friend about the situation. Our friend wants nothing a part of this crap show. I didn't feel bad at first, but after talking about it online, I've had some people say I should have just asked my roommate if he was indeed trans just to keep the peace, or that I shouldn't have essentially picked my roommate who I've only had for about 6 months over my girlfriend of 5 years. I wonder if I'm being unreasonable. I legitimately do not see how any straight dude can find Alex attractive personally, but maybe I should have done something just to keep the peace. No, like maybe you could ask Alex what the scars are for, and then you're probably going to get your answer there. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. You don't owe that transphobic POS anything. You're right. It doesn't matter if he's trans or if it's from some other medical surgery. She's not owed any knowledge about his life, genitals, or medical history just because she doesn't think he deserves to exist or thinks he's delusional or whatever other BS transphobes are spouting. You did the right thing blocking and dumping her. Opie replies, I asked her at one point if one of her friends or roommates asked if she had a vagina, would she be uncomfortable, and she pulled the, "Don't turn this around on me," and then pulled up a freaking Google screenshot of, quote, "common tactics used in gaslighting, misdirection, the abuser changes the subject or redirects the conversation to confuse the victim, minimization, the abuser downplays the victim's feelings, making them feel like their concerns are insignificant or like they're being overly sensitive," which is insane to me. Why the hell would you be an a-hole for leaving someone who both A, is a virulent transphobe, and B, thinks if you're ever in the presence of another human with a vagina, you're inevitably going to bang that person? Even if we remove the transphobia, she's neurotic about assuming you're a cheater. That alone is grounds for dumping for your own sanity. He replies, I do feel right in what I did for the most part, but there is some doubt in me. I admittedly feel ashamed of the doubt, but I still feel it. She was the first girl I ever dated, and I was with her for so long. Meanwhile, I've only been with my roommate for half a year. It does really mess with you to lose someone you've been with for so long. Info, did you start dating your girlfriend when you were 17 and she was 22? And aside from that slightly disturbing fact, you've been together 5 years and appear to not be moving forward, like living together, etc. Where exactly is this relationship going? Opie replies, I really don't like talking about it, but yeah, you're right. I was 17 when we got together, because that's what the age of consent in my state was. We were talking before that, but no relationship stuff happened until I turned 17. She was around 22 years old. A commenter adds, would you be interested in a 17-year-old right now? Even outside of this whole situation, it may be nice to explore other relationships as your ex seems problematic in a variety of ways, including but not limited to the bigotry, lack of trust, and weaponization of terms like gaslighting that are shown in this post. Opie replies, no, I wouldn't. I really don't like thinking of her like that because she was a big part of my life, but thinking back, I don't think I could be interested in a 17-year-old. I don't even think I could date an 18-year-old. I get it's all legal, but it just feels weird. 18-year-old is still probably in high school with parents, and I'm in college and have bills to pay. Your girlfriend is clearly a bigot. Think about whether that's the kind of partner you want. I was on the fence for a bit if this was a transphobia issue, but I did talk to a Redditor in private, and after rereading some text and thinking it over, I do think that she was being transphobic. If Alex is trans, then calling him a girl is a dick move. If Alex isn't trans and just had some surgery for his heart or cancer or something, then it's still a dick move. I feel bad because I didn't know it was transphobia. I really didn't. I'm completely new to this stuff. A commenter says, just because you spent a long time making a mistake, that doesn't mean you have to hold on to it. Opie says, frick, this is really the comment that hit me. Whenever we had problems, I kept saying, well, I've been with her this long, or I've known her this long. It really feels like a punch in the gut. I've been an idiot. Frankly, in a roommate situation, paying the rent on time and picking up after themselves means more than any kind of sexual orientation. He replies, that's what I'm saying. He's the perfect roommate in my opinion. He is chill, doesn't bring drama, cleans up after himself, doesn't play loud music or videos at 2 a.m, and even shares stuff he cooks with me. Considering out of my last roommates, 2 of them got arrested, this is a godsend. Not the a-hole OP, is this the first time your ex-girlfriend has become inappropriately obsessed with someone else's life that is none of her business? Has she ever expressed any sort of prejudice towards people of other demographics? OP replies, she always had a boundary that I couldn't be friends with women or men who were attracted to men. I think she has it in her head that if Alex is a trans dude, then that means he's suddenly a she, which makes no sense to me. Has she ever showed prejudice? I'm not too sure. She refuses to discuss any political or social topics like that to anyone, even her own mum. She prides herself in being anti-political and doesn't watch news or anything involving that. If a YouTuber she likes brings up politics, she would block and never watch that YouTuber again. I do think it's bordering an extreme because if the YouTuber is gay, trans, or mentions anything about social stuff, she treats that as being political. There's a movie commentary YouTuber, who Alex actually introduced me to, called Mr. GG. Once I was showing her a video of him reviewing a movie about La Llorona, and Mr. GG talked about being Hispanic and how he likes seeing Hispanic representation in movies, comparing it to seeing your favorite football team, and she said, shut that crap off because it was too political to her. I think she views everything as political, even stuff I don't really think is. Opie, how did you not see this side to her? I get that you were very young, but this is a woman who got with a minor as soon as it was legal. What would you or other people say if the genders were swapped, and verbally and physically abused you, because that's what she did. I'm glad this happened so you could finally get rid of her. I bet in a few years you'll be shocked you took so much abuse before leaving. Edit to add, I guess this comment came out wrong. I don't actually think Opie is to blame. That's not what I wanted to convey. Opie was definitely naive to think this behavior is out of character for the ex, but she's an abusive POS who likely groomed him. He replies, this isn't me justifying it, I'm just explaining my side here. Any part of me that thought it was weird when I was younger got dismissed by everyone else around me. My mum got with a guy twice her age when she was 16, had me, guy got arrested for something else, and raised me on her own. She started joking about me and my ex being a cute couple and getting married since we were kids. Even when I was 12 and 13, she made jokes about sneaking me into her prom. My ex's mum also encouraged it because her and my mum were best friends. I thought this was normal. I thought her losing her temper and raising hands was normal. I thought her insulting me wasn't her but the anger talking. If you have everyone around you telling you something is okay, even if it isn't, it does really mess with you. She's also literally the only woman I've been with, and I haven't even been friends with a woman for a long time because that made her uncomfortable. I get I was dumb, but try to see my side here. Alright, Opie edits the post. Edit to answer some questions. Did you break up with her? Yes. During the text conversation, we broke up. I always told her I had one rule, that I don't do ultimatums. If she were to say choose X or me, that I would leave. I put up with a lot of crap, verbal and physical, but I don't put up with that kind of BS. Ages? I was 17 and she was 22 or 23 when we got together. It's been a long time, so I'd have to look back to make sure, but yeah, I was for sure 17. We got together the day I turned 17. Our anniversary is my birthday. We couldn't get together before then because of the age of consent in my state, which I get now is really messed up. I don't know if it helps, but we've known each other our entire lives. My mum is her mum's best friend. When my mum worked, I would go over to Sarah's mum's house, so I wasn't alone. We started talking and flirting when I was about 15 or 16, but didn't cross any physical lines until I turned 17 because I didn't want her to get arrested. I get that sounds bad, I really do, but at the time I didn't see it as bad. Just in case it is asked, our mums encouraged it. Why would you want to be with someone like that? Well, I don't. I really don't. I didn't realize it was transphobia until some people here talked to me about it. I thought it was just her being jealous, but I get how messed up it is now. Please understand, I live in the Bible Belt. I didn't even know trans people existed until I was 16. My personal thought is that I don't see a problem with people being trans and transitioning. I think at the end of the day, it isn't my business. Is Alex trans? I have no clue. He could be, but he could have also had breast cancer, gyno, heart, lung, or any kind of other surgery. I used a photo from Google and Reddit because this whole time I personally thought he had gyno or something, but it's not my business. Is Alex safe? I'll talk to him when I get home, and then talk to my landlord. I'll change my gate code and also have her removed from the allowed guests list, and also ask my landlord to not let her in personally. She hasn't been too violent of a person in the past, but I also didn't know she was this insane in the past either. Was there abuse? I feel like this has kind of been implied in some questions. I don't know. Has she insulted me? Yes. Has she been physical? Yes, but nothing crazy. Slapping, pushing, shoving, but never anything like punching or drawing blood. And why use CM if you're American? I was born and raised American. However, I got a couple of friends who use metric from college, and after sharing a group chat with them for so long, the habit has stuck. If anyone cares, we're in automotive engineering. And the photo is not actually Alex. I searched Google for gyno surgery photos and then found a Reddit post talking about it. I used it as a reference for what I mean. Scarring under the chest and around the nipple area. I definitely wouldn't actually post a photo of Alex here, censored or not. I'm sorry for confusion. And why didn't you ask Alex about his scars? I have a few reasons. I personally wouldn't like it if someone asked me. Second, my mum has scars all around her body for different reasons and gets livid if you ask her about them. Third, probably the one that confuses people the most, I didn't really care enough to ask. I was curious, but I just thought, and then went on with my business. Opie responds to a longer comment. Do you think a man slapping, pushing, shoving, but not punching or drawing blood from his girlfriend is okay? Would you consider doing this to your girlfriend or any partner in the future? If you heard your female friend doing this to her boyfriend, or your male friend doing this to his girlfriend, would you be fine with it? Well, it's less that I don't think women can be abusers, and more like I felt this was a normal way for someone to convey being upset, or what I'm slowly realizing, I do think I deserved it. If any of my friends, male or female, told me their partner was hitting them, I would tell them to leave and not put up with it. I think there is some part of me that believes that I did deserve it, and I recognize that isn't healthy, so I am going to get help. One comment says, the mum's encouraged a 17-year-old to date a 22-year-old? WTF is happening? Am I misunderstanding? He replies, my mum is one of those people who only thinks it's a problem if it's an adult with someone under the age of 13 sexually. Yeah, I had to specify sexually for a reason. My biological father got my mum pregnant with me when she was 15, 16. He was more than double her age. I don't know if that experience warped her perception of reality or what. She has been through a lot, and I recognize that, but damn, not to rant, but she is the textbook definition of continuing the cycle. Opie makes a small update the next day. I talked to Alex. I got advice saying to be upfront and tell him what's up completely, hide the trans part, and that I just shouldn't tell him. I don't know if this was the right thing, but I just told him because once I was face to face with him, I couldn't really help but do it. To clarify, I did not ask him about his scars or mention that specifically. I said that my ex-girlfriend was under the impression he was a trans person. I made sure to say I didn't care if he was or wasn't, and that I broke things off, changed the gate codes, put her on the do not let in list, all that drama. Before even saying anything, he asked if I was okay. Like I said, he's a chill dude. He also not so subtly asked the same questions that a lot of the comments asked, essentially if I was in an abusive situation. I told him I don't know, but whatever kind of situation it was, it's over. The thing that really kind of messed with me is that he called me his best friend. I regret not saying we were close in other comments. I realize now we have different definitions of close because he is introverted and I'm not. We talked about irrelevant stuff for a while, and then the question came up. Would you care if I was trans? To summarize things, yes, Alex is trans mask. He had top surgery when he was 19 and has been on hormones since he was 18. He even has a tattoo with the date he started testosterone. While the idea that he could have been a dude with gyno, cancer, or something else is completely reasonable, it just happens that Alex is trans, and I don't care about that. Alex is Alex. I did show him the post and got permission to update things. I would not have otherwise. He's also roaming this post somewhere, but probably won't comment. Notes. Alex is going to help me out with finding some low-cost or pay scale therapy because he personally hasn't heard good things about the college's therapy services. Like everyone else has said, yes, it was abuse. I see that. I'll also hold higher standards for myself in the future. Alex sent me the information for the therapist he sees, and I'll contact them in the morning. The landlord knows there is a domestic incident, and I trust him when it comes to making sure my ex doesn't show up. The do not allow list was made in mind for this reason. I'm not ready to talk to my mum about this, but I hope with some therapy and time I will be. She knows something is going on, but she believes this is a break and not a breakup. Sorry if this sounds like rambling, it is. This has been a rough couple of weeks. My brain is fried and I'm tired. Keep in mind, I'm still a full-time student during this. I also have to keep my grades up for my grants, scholarships, government aid, etc. I do read all comments, even the not-so-good ones. I'll try to respond more before I sleep tonight, but just know, even if I don't reply, I have read it. I appreciate all the advice, kicks in the rear, and the sympathy. A side note, I've seen a lot of trans people comment on this post, and I've had a few reach out to me in private. I'm thankful for your comments as well. It has brought to my attention how tough things are out there, because I honestly felt what I did was the bare minimum, and not worthy of praise because it should just be expected. But I see that it's being praised for how low of a bar there is when it comes to human decency towards you, and I'm sorry for that, and hope things get better. One comment says, not the a-hole, you have a good roommate. Trans or not, they are impossible to find. Your girlfriend was the one with issues. Get a restraining order? OP says, this morning I did respond to one of her messages with essentially, further communication will be used as evidence for a restraining order. The good thing is she is on probation, and one of the rules is that if she commits any crimes while on probation, it'll probably be revoked. So if she messes up once, then she won't be my problem for a couple of years. She is on probation for DWI. One of the rules of her probation is that she can't violate the law. If she does, then that's a violation, and they may revoke her probation. On why he posted here. Well, I originally asked this question on Facebook and was given a completely different answer, basically keeping the peace, happy wife, happy life, see it from her point of view, etc. Why are you so familiar with gynecomastia? I googled chest scars surgery male once, and the first thing that came up was a website talking about, do men have to worry about gynecomastia scars? This whole time I assumed Alex had that. Bro, it legitimately sounds like you'd been railroaded into that one relationship for your entire life. The fact that you're going to be able to establish any standards is going to be a big step up. Therapy is definitely going to be important for that, and it's good you're seeking it out already. Opie says, for real, the minute my pregnant mum found out I would be a boy, she immediately joked to Sarah's mum that this was perfect because then I could date Sarah and then our mums could be actual sisters or something. Couples Halloween costumes, my mum coming up with plans to sneak me into Sarah's prom. It's a good thing Sarah can't have kids because my mum wouldn't stop about grandkid ideas until that was found out. Okay, now for an actual update. I talked to the therapist Alex recommended. Normally I would be on the wait list until January, but due to the situation, the therapist referred me to one of his associates, and I'll be seen as early as next week. I also was recommended to attend a domestic violence support group that gathers once a month. I was originally not going to go because the idea was uncomfortable as hell, but Alex said he'll go with me, so at least I'll know someone there, and we can leave if it's too weird for me. My mum is aware of the breakup. She's not too happy. I did not mention the trans part. I said that Sarah was being controlling and I didn't want to put up with it anymore. I got the usual, well, that's a normal part of any relationship comments, but I stood my ground. My mum seems to be under the same delusion as Sarah that this is a small argument or something and we'll get back together, but that is absolutely not happening. I don't really talk to Sarah's mum, so I don't know her thoughts on the matter. The landlord is aware of the situation and will not let Sarah in, should she try to show up. If you don't have the gate code, you have to go to the main office and the employee, the landlord's son, will buzz the person in if they're on your accepted people list, or call the tenant and ask if they aren't on the list. If the individual is on the do not let in list, especially if it involves a criminal matter, they will be asked to leave. If they don't leave, then it becomes trespassing. I know this sounds like a lot, but the security is why a lot of people live here. Notes after reading some comments. I am sorry for trivializing my abuse. It still feels weird to say abuse, but I do know that it is abuse. Slapping, pushing, and shoving is physical abuse, and if another person came up and told me their partner was doing that, I would call it abuse. It's not that I don't think women can be abusive, but as I said in one of the comments, I don't view it as abuse when it's towards me. This is probably due to being abused by my mum, which I am going to get help for. For reference, when I mention my mum's abuse, it's why I'm low contact with her. The reason why I was extremely underweight as a kid is because she just straight up didn't feed me a lot of the time. CPS got called a lot, but never did anything. They also didn't take any claims by my teachers that I was being abused as creditable because there were no marks or bruises, which has warped my view on abuse. Going forward, if I date again, I won't put up with any physical or verbal abuse. A couple of comments helped by saying that if I was confused on if I was wrong, to think about it if it was another person going through it, which has been helpful in what I feel is right and wrong treatment towards me. After a lot of talking, it turns out Alex and I have been friends this whole time, but because I've never had an introvert friend before, I didn't exactly realize. Alex says he didn't want to annoy me by trying to chat with me all the time, which ironically is what I was feeling. Now we're going to hang out more, and he's trying to get me to join the D&D game he's in. Thank you for reading my giant block of text. I'm on the app and I don't know exactly how to format. I'm grateful for all the comments, regardless if they're good or bad. I do read all of them. Opie comments on telling mum about the abuse. I agree with your comment. The unfortunate thing is that my mum is aware of her physical and verbal abuse and didn't really do anything about it. She would make excuses for Sarah, such as how Sarah just needs help. She's stressed, and that it isn't abuse because Sarah didn't leave marks or bruises directly. My mum is not happy about the breakup and is in the denial stage right now, but the roommate issue hasn't been brought up. If it is brought up, I'm going to say Alex had heart surgery, which is the excuse Alex uses. Another comment says, Opie's mum is upsetting because I know someone like her in real life. Her own child, 19, went to her with concerns about his relationship, and she snapped, "You can't break up, you just work through things, that's what a relationship is." Poor kid, I remember telling my mum about horrible things an ex said and did to me, and she just laughed. I feel that this is not yet over. Sarah is an abusive craphead who also happens to be a transphobe, and she probably groomed OP. She's not going to let him out of her clutches that easily. Honestly, thank God OP ended up rooming with Alex. There was so much more than transphobia coming to light here. Alex was just the catalyst for OP's escape. Yes, an escape he did, thank God. Anyway guys, we're going to leave that story there. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Anyway, we're going to move on. Okay, shifting over to relationship advice. This one was written by user PoppyBlossom90 and it's titled, "My boyfriend is upset that I'd consider breaking my vegetarianism during a week-long trip to Japan. How do I navigate this? I, 34 female, have been vegetarian for about 4 years. My boyfriend, 34, is a meat lover. He is an excellent cook and he loves steak and other types of meat. He's never asked me to start eating meat. I have never asked him to stop eating meat. I don't care what he eats. It's 100% his and everyone else's choice. I don't talk about being vegetarian. I don't promote it, and I try to figure out my own food if I need to so I don't inconvenience others. Sometimes it's hard to find a restaurant with a vegetarian choice besides a side salad, so I'll do the legwork to find a restaurant everyone will like. My choice to be vegetarian hasn't seemed to be an issue or cause any big inconvenience, but maybe I'm wrong. When I went on vacation with my boyfriend's family for a week, his mum revised her risotto recipe to use veggie broth instead of chicken broth so I could eat it. I didn't ask. I think my boyfriend suggested it to her. I was really appreciative. When my boyfriend and I went on vacation for a week, we both looked up restaurants that would have a veg option for me. We mostly ate at seafood places because of where we were vacationing, and I managed to find a veggie burger or something like that at most places. My take. I have a work trip to Japan coming up soon. I told my boyfriend I was considering eating meat during that week so I can fully experience the culture and food. That means sushi, wagyu, ramen, things like that. I'm not sure if I can actually get myself to eat meat during the trip because I think I'll feel guilty about it. My choice to be veg is because I feel bad for how animals are raised, treated, farmed, and the nature of how they're usually killed. I know I can get humanely raised meat, but I choose to abstain altogether. I miss sushi and steak the most, but again, I abstain. My boyfriend's take. He is upset that I would consider breaking vegetarianism for this week-long trip, but I wouldn't consider breaking vegetarianism to have a steak with him. It makes him feel like he's not worth it. It makes him feel like the trip and the co-workers I'm going on the trip with are more important than him. I know he bonds over sharing food with people, he likes to cook for other people, and he's never been able to cook a steak for me, and we've never been able to share a steak dinner together. We've gone to steakhouses before, but I just eat whatever else they have. It's not the same as us both enjoying a steak. He also said that all the effort to accommodate me being vegetarian seemed like a waste now, like his mum going out of her way to make the risotto without chicken broth, looking up restaurants where I can eat something besides a salad, him cooking stir-fry or other dishes and leaving the meat separate on the flat-top grill until I serve myself the veggies, and then after that he combines it all together with the meat, things like that. Me not being able to enjoy the best shrimp he's ever had on our vacation together. He was to the point of tears over us not being able to eat a steak together. I understand it would make him feel bad that I'd consider eating meat on the trip, but I haven't offered to eat a steak with him. I feel terrible for making him feel this way, and making him feel less important or less worthy. I apologized for this and apologized for making him feel this way. I told him that's not it. It's not that he's not worthy. That this trip is probably once in a lifetime, and I'm afraid that if I have a steak here at home with him, I'm concerned it'll become a slippery slope. I told him I don't want to stop being vegetarian. How do I navigate this? Editing to add. When he told me how he felt about this, I listened, apologized for making him feel so poorly, and validated him. I understand why he feels bad, and I should have thought about how this might go before I said it, that I'm considering eating meat on the trip, out loud. During the conversation, I thanked him for telling me how he was feeling, and thanked him for telling me how important that would be to him, so I offered to have a steak with him, and I also let him know I don't want it to become a regular thing because I prefer to stay vegetarian, or mostly vegetarian I guess, since having steak with him wouldn't be vegetarian. I know sharing meals together is important to him, it's also important to me. What I did not know, however, is that he was so badly wanting to have a steak together where I eat it too. When he cooks meat, I always comment on how good it looks and smells, and he has said before, "I wish you could taste this." In hindsight, that comment from him was probably hinting at him wishing I'd offered to eat his steak with him. He hasn't asked me, "Hey, can you please eat a steak with me tonight?" or "Would you ever consider eating meat with me or for me?" If he asked me those questions and I said no, and then I said I'm considering eating meat in Japan, that would be a different conversation. I haven't rejected him that way, but I also haven't offered to eat steak with him either until this conversation came up. I didn't know this specific thing was something he wanted so badly. I thought because he eats meat as much as he wants and we eat many meals together that he was satisfied in this area. We've never been to a vegetarian restaurant together. I try to make my vegetarianism as small as possible. I don't want it to be a thing. I bring food to his house. I get a side salad or kids' grilled cheese at restaurants that don't have any other veg options. I don't make it a big deal. I completely understand why he feels bad. That's not what this post is about. I'm just wondering how to best move forward. I also just told him I was considering eating meat on that trip without thinking about it first. I didn't think about how he'd feel. He'd feel slighted. I didn't think about how I'd feel. I'd feel guilty and anxious about the thought of actually going through with eating meat, etc. When we talked about it, I brought up that I'll have to slowly incorporate meat into my diet leading up to us having a steak together or to going to Japan if I choose to eat meat on that trip. I know that's a thing. Considering how anxious I feel about actually thinking more about going through with eating meat, I think it's best for me to just not eat meat on the trip. But now I still have to figure out how to address the topic with my boyfriend because now I know he wants me to eat steak with him and I offered to do that for him. Thanks for all the feedback, everyone. Let's go to those comments. Your prob's gonna make yourself sick, girl. Edit to add, didn't think this would get a single upvote. OP, I genuinely couldn't care less if you eat meat while in Japan, and I don't think anyone else should either. In saying that, you do have to accept that you may spend your vacation unwell, and not just from COVID. Some people have suggested fish should be fine, but I'm no expert. Have a great vacation either way. And remember that masks are super common in Japan and it's polite to wear one on public transport. You will probably get sick. I wouldn't risk doing it on a trip. At the same time, it should be her and her decision only. Met so many vegans and vegetarians that tried fish and meat in Japan and had a great time. I'm vegan. I stayed vegan for my month in Japan without issues. There are meat-free options on many restaurant menus. There are vegan restaurants. I even stayed in a fully vegan guest house in Kyoto. It will be much easier for you being vegetarian. Use the Happy Cow app to find suitable places. Use the Google Translate photo function to read ingredients labels. It's a compliment to your boyfriend if anything, like not working out while on vacation. That's not sustainable when it's forever. That being said, I was a vegetarian for a couple of years and when I decided to break it, I was sick for the first week. First I vomited, then had toilet troubles. I don't know that you should do this if it will mess with a once-in-a-lifetime trip. Okay, let's go straight to the update. Here's what happened. This is going to be really long. During the 2 weeks leading up to me leaving for Japan, we got into a couple big arguments, and about 5 days before I left, he told me he can't do it anymore. He can't take all the arguing. He's exhausted. I don't take responsibility for the things I'm doing wrong, and all I do is focus on what he's doing wrong. I don't talk enough about the things that I need to fix about myself. I don't talk about my insecurities enough, and I don't take enough responsibility for the ways I communicate poorly and how that makes us fight. A little more context about the arguments. Argument 1. We had a talk one Sunday about how I was feeling. He could tell I was down, and I told him I was feeling lonely. He asked how else I'd been feeling lately, and I shared that I've also been conflicted about some work stuff and some family and friends stuff. We didn't talk about the loneliness, just about the other things. He went into solution mode and was emotionless about it. It wasn't what I needed, but I went through that process with him first, since he seemed determined to get to the bottom of it. Throughout the discussion, a couple things rubbed me the wrong way. First, he told me he doesn't think that I actually feel that way, and second, there was no empathy. When he was done leading that discussion, he asked me how I feel. I told him poorly. The first thing I shared is that it's disheartening when he asks me how I feel, I tell him how I feel, and then he replies with, "I don't think you feel that way." This isn't the first time this happened. Other times when he's asked me how I feel or what I think about something, he's told me, "I don't believe you. I don't think you feel that way. It doesn't make sense to feel that way. I think you feel like that because of XYZ, not because of the reason I gave him." The second thing I shared is that I would have liked him to not only focus on analysing the situation and to say something empathetic like, "Oh babe, that sucks you feel so lonely. I'm sorry to hear that. What's going on?" I told him I appreciated the solution mode discussion and that helped, and I also needed some empathy. He got quiet and his body language changed. I asked him if he's upset. He firmly replied, "Yeah, I'm upset." I asked why, and he said because I'm only focusing on the things he did wrong. He tried so hard to handle the situation well, and he did everything else right, but all I told him is what he did wrong. I reminded him he did other things right, and I referenced back to other conversations where he's shared a grievance with me, and I haven't given him what he wanted in the moment. He wanted more empathy or more softness, for example, and he's quick to point it out and tell me what I'm not doing right and what he needs from me. This conversation kind of ended after that. I brought it up again a week or so later, and he said sorry for not handling it well. Argument 2. He told me he was making plans to watch a horror movie with his friend Aaron. They periodically watch movies together, just the two of them, and that's fine by me. However, this made me feel insecure this time because I don't feel like he gets excited to make plans with me. Really tries to make or initiate plans with me, besides just hanging out at home or something or saying we should go to the brunch place we like nearly every weekend. Anyway, I got really quiet and started tearing up in the moment, and I was trying to process how I felt and figure out if it's worth bringing it up or if I just need to handle it on my own and not tell him how I was feeling, because I know it's an insecurity of mine. He asked me what's wrong, and I decided this is benign enough to talk about. I told him this made me feel really insecure. He told me it doesn't make sense for me to feel that way. I shouldn't feel that way, and he's never done anything to make me feel that way. I explained myself and explained why. He loves horror movies and I want him to share that with me, and I feel insecure about it. If the rest of our relationship was healthy, this probably would not have made me feel poorly, but I'd been feeling not really wanted for a while, so this kind of tipped the scale. He persisted that it doesn't make sense for me to feel this way and listed reasons why I shouldn't feel that way. Eventually he said okay, and he understood what I was saying. He asked me if I felt heard, and I said, yeah, I think so. Then he wanted a chance to say his perspective. He went right into how it doesn't make sense for me to feel that way, why I shouldn't feel that way, and that he's never done anything to make me feel that way. I got so frustrated because that contradicted what I thought we just resolved when he said he understood my feelings. He got upset because I was bothered about it again after I just told him I felt heard. He said he wanted softness from me, and I wasn't receiving him well. We went back and forth after that, me trying to explain why his responses to me were bothering me, and him insisting the same things again. It never got resolved. Argument 3. I was leaving for Japan on a Friday night. My flight was at like 7 p.m. That same day, he was going to drive about an hour away to spend the weekend with his best friend. We talked a few weeks prior, and I said I wasn't going to work that day so I could prepare for the trip, and we agreed we'd hang out that day, but never firmed up any plans or times. We went out to dinner, and I asked him what time he was planning to leave on Friday to drive to his friend's house. It was a genuine question with no feelings or anything attached. He replied, between 3 and 5 p.m. I don't know what I was expecting him to say, but when he told me 3 to 5, I realized I felt bad because I wanted him to want to spend that time with me leading up to my flight, and maybe take me to the airport or something. I never expressed this to him previously. We didn't talk about it yet, but in that moment I told him I felt unconsidered and I wished he would have considered me. I screwed up because I should have told him I wanted to hang out leading up to my flight instead of saying I felt unconsidered, but at the same time I don't know if I would have felt comfortable telling him that because it would interfere with his friend's time and change his plans. I'm not sure how he would have received that. Maybe well, maybe not. He got really upset. I tried explaining why I felt unconsidered, and immediately his body language changed. He pushed himself back in his chair a little, made this smirk, scoffed, and started interrupting me. I got frustrated and heated and told him not to interrupt me when I was trying to explain my feelings, and I can see he's about to get defensive. It was definitely triggered by his change in demeanor and his attempt to interrupt me. I thought to myself, not again, not this time. Stand up for yourself and make sure you get to share your feelings. He got even more upset that I assumed he was going to get defensive, and he got upset I wouldn't let him interrupt me. He said he did consider me. His plan to leave between 3 and 5 wasn't firm, and if I just let him interrupt me, this big fight wouldn't have happened. He said my feelings weren't appropriate because they were based on an incorrect assumption I made. The assumption I made was that he didn't consider me, and that his plans to leave between 3 and 5 were firm. He told me he just pulled that time frame out of the air and it wasn't firm. He didn't have dinner plans with his friend yet, so it was all flexible. When he explained himself, I thanked him for explaining it. I apologized for assuming he didn't consider me, and I told him I see his perspective. He was really upset with me though, so he explained again why what I did wasn't okay. It wasn't okay that 1, I assumed he didn't consider me. 2, I said, I wish you would have considered me. 3, I called out his body language. And 4, I assumed he was going to get defensive. Side note, me saying I wish you would to him is a no-no because it makes him feel awful, so I've worked hard to not use that phrase with him. I failed this time. I explained that those were my feelings based on the information I had at the time, and even though they were based on wrong information, it's still okay for me to tell him how I feel first, and then he can set the record straight. Then he can say something like, oh, these plans aren't actually firm. Sorry you didn't feel considered. The plans are flexible. And I can say, okay, sorry for assuming that. I'd like to hang out up until I go to the airport. That didn't work for him. He insisted that if I just let him interrupt me, none of this would have happened. I ended up reiterating his point and apologizing 3 times. Also, over the summer, something similar happened with the roles reversed. He assumed something incorrect, and he was upset about it, and I interrupted him to tell him what the correct information was, and he told me I need to hear him out first before I chime in with the correct information because his feelings are still his feelings and they should be heard. It's hard to do, but I agreed, so I brought up that conversation as justification for why I should be allowed to tell him how I feel before he interrupts me. He still wanted to interrupt me because my assumption was wrong. Then he got upset that I changed my stance so quickly. When he told me the plans were flexible, and I apologized for assuming he didn't consider me, and I told him, okay, I understand that works for me. He said he feels crazy when this happens. When I feel bad about something, he explains his side, and then I say, okay, I understand, and I let my original feelings go, and I side with him. He said that I'm gaslighting him because it seems like a big deal to me. Then he gets worked up, and then I back down. I tried to explain that it's normal and healthy for someone to be told new information and then take that information into consideration and change their approach. It's healthy for me to hear him out and say, yeah, I made an assumption and I shouldn't feel bad about this anymore. Anyway, he was really upset with me all night. The whole fight was because of my poor communication. When we woke up the next morning, I thought he was going to apologize to me. Apparently, he thought I was going to apologize to him, and that's when he told me it's over. Oh man, I'm not even in this relationship and I'm absolutely exhausted by it. And these people are in their mid-30s? God, give me a break. Anyway, newsflash, they broke up. Kudos if you made it this far. Anyway guys, that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.